So the next theorem added into our proofs are supplementary angles. So quick recall, you know that supplementary angles form a linear pair, and they're angles that add up to 180 degrees. So when we do these types of proofs, they're going to require 3 steps. So first we want to state the angles that they give us are congruent, then look for the supplementary angles, and then state the new congruent angles. So let me just explain in this example here. Say that we are given angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. Well, we can see 1 and 3 are supplementary and 2 and 4 are supplementary. Let's just for a second maybe put some numbers behind 1 and 2. So if angle 1 is 150, well then angle 2 has to be 150 as well, because in our given they would tell us that they would be congruent. Okay, well if angle 1 is 150 and angle 1 and 3 are supplementary, well then this has to be 30. If angle 2 and 4 are supplementary, well then angle 4 has to be 30 as well. So therefore angle 4 and angle 3 will have to be congruent to each other, because supplements of congruent angles are congruent. So let's take a look at an example in a proof here. So this is the same type of diagram. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. We know that y is the midpoint. Well, if y is the midpoint of WR, then WY has to be congruent to RY. And then we're out of givens, but you'll notice that we have vertical angles here. Okay, so if we just look back at our first given, if 1 and 2 are congruent to each other, and 1 and 3 and 2 and 4 are supplementary, well then 3 has to be congruent to 4. So if we take a look at our reasons, 1 and 2 are given to us. 1 and 3 are supplementary, 2 and 4 are supplementary. Angles that form a linear pair are supplementary. Well, if 1 and 2 are congruent, and 1 and 3 and 2 and 4 are supplementary, well then 3 has to be congruent to 4, because supplements of congruent angles are congruent. So that was the new kind of additional theorem that we learned. Then everything else you should know from past lessons. Y is the midpoint, so then that gave us WY is congruent to RY. Midpoint divides a segment into 2 congruent segments. And then we have intersecting lines form congruent vertical angles. And then we can go ahead and use the angle side angle method. Okay? So when you look for, when you're doing supplementary angle proofs, look for your linear pairs. And then we would just say supplements of congruent angles are congruent.